Hi folks, I'm Doc Sprocket, and I'm here to give you a better look at my modified transaxle. For off-road use, I've locked it, and I'm going to give you an exclusive look at the dock locker, as I affectionately call it. There's MULE without her ass end. Oh boy, naked. So here it is. This is a Peerless 930 that I've modified for the task. It's a 6-speed, not that that matters. I've also modified it for oil-filled operation as opposed to grease-filled. I believe it's superior, it penetrates better, but that's besides the point. That's not important. Let's get the lid off this thing. Here we have from this view something that looks more or less like a 930. Well, it pretty much is. You'll notice the lock collar here. That's a hint. Okay, so what do we got going on? Well, let's just tip the camera in there, and you'll see that the dock locker has no spider gears. That's right, no spider gears, because I believe you can't break what you don't have. So let's just have a little bit of a look at this thing, shall we? I'm going to have to work on my lighting. Okay, so what do you say we pull the shaft out and have a closer look? Okay. Just haul that on out of there. Pull the bull gear out of the way. And there we go. What I've got going on here is a cross pin. Sort of. I took the factory cross pin out when I disassembled the transaxle, took the spider gears out and threw them in the scrap bin. And what I did was I cut the cross pin into 3 pieces. One piece was just garbage, I didn't need it all. And I cut 2 pieces that were the right length to weld to this shaft. I'll get to the shaft in a second. Basically what we've got going on here is the cross pins are just long enough to index into the bull gear. God, I got a shaky hand today. Without actually binding. You want a little bit of free play in there. And you want a little bit of free play in there so it doesn't jump the bull gear around and throw it around and break things. However, you will notice the lock collars and the thrust washers, and that basically keep the axle from walking side to side. If it does that, you're in deep doo-doo. Now the axle itself is just a piece of 3/4 shaft that I had laying around. I'm into go-karts and stuff like that. I have these things. For you, you'll have to buy one. Now, you've got a choice when it comes to an axle shaft. You can either use a keyed shaft, which has a keyway cut all the way along its entire length, or a non-keyed shaft. Maybe you'll be lucky enough to get one that's partially keyed that you can make use of. I did not. I used a non-keyed shaft and I cut the keyways in the axle ends for my wheels. Cutting your own keyways isn't as scary a task as it sounds like. All you basically need is a Dremel and a pile of patience. Cut slowly, cut carefully, check your work often. Let me just pop this thing back together for a sec. There we go. I just wanted to pop it back together long enough just to demonstrate what I set up in here. And what I set up was about 15 thou of end play in the axle. It's got just a little bit of room to move about. Can't even do this one-handed. Just so it doesn't bind up. And then in the bull gear, I've actually got about 40 thou with the cross pin. This is going to be awfully difficult to do on this angle. Excuse the silliness here. Yeah. I've got about 40 thou or so in there. Consider it 20 thou per side. When you're setting up that pin, it is imperative. It's absolutely necessary that you leave a little play. If it binds up on the bull gear, stuff's going to explode. You don't want that. So, anyways, that's the long and the short of it. That's the dock locker as we know it. I've been punishing the hell out of this for months now, with absolutely no issues whatsoever in relation to that locking method. I opened this up today because I had to change oil. The oil I was using was too thick for the conditions. It's awfully damn cold here in Ontario right now, and I was having some shifting difficulty. That's a minor thing. The other thing that I think I'd like to point out right now are these bearings right here. One there, one on the other side. Those bearings there don't actually belong in a 930. Those bearings came out of an 800 series. 801 or one of those particular models. I forget the exact model number that I took apart. And they just so happen to fit the recesses in the 930 case rather nicely. So I figured it was a good idea. I don't know if you can see the seal there. They're actually sealed bearings and they help keep the gear oil from oozing out the end of the axle shaft. It's pretty good. When I took this thing apart, you could basically see the puddle of oil built up in here. And as you can see, this is just about dry. Sorry for the shakiness, folks. I really don't know what the hell's going on with that. Maybe too much coffee? Don't know. So anyways, folks, there's your look at the dock locker. Like I said, it's really not that hard to put together. You got to pay attention to a couple of things. And it doesn't have to cost a lot of money either. I know the cash is tight with a lot of people. Those 2 lock collars there cost me $2 a piece, I think it was. And the thrust washers here were actually the stock thrust washers out of the transaxle that I simply recycled. The shaft I had laying around, but you can pick them up pretty cheap from any good steel supplier. Do not use 3/4 inch steel rod or bar stock. It is not actually machined to precise specifications. You need shafting. It has to be marketed as shafting. It must be precise and it must be straight. You don't want this stuff blowing up, do you? Alright, thanks for watching. See you next time.